Love rarely disappears all at once. It fades in quiet, almost invisible ways. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice two subtle shifts long before the goodbye ever comes. It's not in the words they say, it's in what they stop doing, in the silence between messages, in the way their energy pulls away without a sound. Before love dies, it retreats. And once you spot these two changes, you'll know their heart is already halfway gone. Today, we will not speak of a dozen confusing signals. We will focus on two foundational changes in behavior that, more often than not, are the very first, almost imperceptible tremors that indicate the ground of love beneath your feet is becoming unstable. And the second one, the one we will build towards. Understanding it clearly is often the key to preserving your own peace, even amidst the sorrow. Missing these early signs can lead to prolonged confusion and deeper heartache. So listen closely, for this knowledge is a quiet compass in a turbulent sea. Don't be the one left wondering what happened long after the tide has turned. The clarity you seek begins now. It is a delicate thing, the fading of affection. It rarely announces itself with trumpets. Instead, it is like the changing of seasons, so gradual at first that you might doubt your own perceptions. You might tell yourself you are imagining things, that you are being too sensitive. But the heart often knows what the mind is not yet ready to accept. And these two specific shifts are the heart's early messengers trying to deliver a difficult truth. They are not about grand gestures of neglect, but rather about the subtle erosion of connection at its most fundamental levels. Let us explore the first of these. The very first thing you will likely observe, a canary in the coal mine of a fading love, is a distinct and often perplexing change in the quality and intentionality of their communication. This is not merely about happiness, it's far more nuanced. It's a retreat from the obvious spaces of life, a segment of persistent control, and a open, engaged, emotionally resonant conversation that transforms the life different. It's as if the effort required to truly engage, to connect with you on a meaningful verbal level, has become a burden they are increasingly unwilling to bear. Consider the questions they ask, or rather, the questions they stop asking. Previously, they might have shown genuine curiosity about your day, your thoughts, your worries, your triumphs. How was that meeting you were nervous about? What did you think of that book you finished? What's been on your mind lately? These questions are small acts of love, indicators of a desire to know and understand the landscape of your inner world. When love is receding, this curiosity often dries up. The questions become superficial, if they come at all. Or worse, they feel like an obligation, a script they are reciting without any real interest in the answer. You might find yourself carrying the conversational load, initiating most topics, trying to draw them out, only to be met with a polite but distinct lack of enthusiasm or reciprocity. Another facet of this communicative shift is the avoidance of emotionally significant topics. Issues that once would have been discussed openly, perhaps concerns about the relationship itself, future plans, personal struggles, or even shared joys that require emotional investment, are now sidestepped. If you try to bring them up, you might be met with deflection. Now's not a good time. I'm too tired for a heavy conversation. Minimization. You're making a big deal out of nothing, or even irritation. It's as if they are building an invisible wall around their emotional core, and conversation is one of an access point they are now guarding. They are no longer willing to be vulnerable with you in that way, or perhaps they no longer see the value or safety in doing so. Pay attention to non-verbal cues during these interactions. Do they maintain eye contact, or do their eyes frequently wander as if looking for an escape? Is their body language open and turned towards you, or are they subtly angled away, closed off, their arms crossed, their attention clearly elsewhere on their phone, the television, anything but you? These non-verbal signals often betray the emotional distance that words are attempting to conceal. The human body rarely lies about its true feelings. Even if they are saying, "Yes, I'm listening," their posture, their gaze, their restless energy might be screaming, "No, I'm not truly here with you." This withdrawal from meaningful dialogue is not always malicious in its intent, especially in the early stages. Sometimes the person themselves is confused. They may not fully understand why they are pulling away. They might be grappling with their own changing feelings, and this discomfort manifests as a retreat from the intimacy that conversation demands. They might fear hurting you, or they might fear the conflict that addressing their true feelings could ignite. So they opt for the path of least immediate resistance, a slow, quiet fade in their communicative engagement. However, regardless of the underlying reasons, the impact on you and the relationship is undeniable. You begin to feel unseen, unheard, and increasingly isolated within the partnership. The person who was once your closest confidant, the one with whom you could share your deepest self, starts to feel like a stranger, or at best, a polite acquaintance. The wellspring of shared understanding and emotional intimacy begins to run dry. This erosion of genuine communication is a profound loss because it strikes at the very heart of what it means to be truly connected to another human being. It is a silence that grows not in the absence of noise, but in the absence of meaning. This is often the first, most palpable sign that something fundamental has shifted, that the love you once shared is, perhaps, beginning its quiet retreat. This alteration in communication, this drawing down of the conversational drawbridge, is deeply significant. But it rarely occurs in a vacuum. It is often accompanied or swiftly followed by another, equally telling behavior, a change that moves beyond words and into the realm of shared experience and presence. This second sign can be even more disorienting because it affects the very rhythm and texture of your life together. Stay with me as we uncover this next crucial indicator, because recognizing it, alongside the first, provides a much clearer, though perhaps more sorrowful, understanding of the shifting landscape of the heart. The second primary indicator that someone's love for you may be waning is a noticeable and consistent withdrawal from shared time, shared activities, and a subtle but persistent disengagement from the we-ness of the relationship. It's as if the invisible threads that once wove your lives together are being quietly snipped one by one. This goes beyond simply being busy. It's a qualitative shift in their desire and effort to intersect their life with yours in meaningful ways. Think about the rituals and routines you once shared, the activities that were touchstones of your connection. Perhaps it was a standing date night, a Sunday morning walk, cooking dinner together, watching a particular show, or even just quiet, companionable evenings spent in each other's presence. When love is fading, you might find these shared moments becoming less frequent, more easily discarded, or infused with a sense of obligation rather than genuine enthusiasm on their part. Excuses for not participating in these shared activities may become more common. "I'm too tired tonight. I have too much work. Something came up with friends. I just need some time to myself." While everyone needs personal space and has legitimate obligations, a consistent pattern of prioritizing other things or simply solitude over established shared time is a significant signal. It's not just that they can't make the time, it starts to feel like they don't want to, or that the effort to do so no longer feels worth it to them. The joy they once found in these shared experiences seems to have evaporated. You might also notice a decline in their initiation of shared activities. Previously, they might have been just as likely as you, if not more so, to suggest things to do together. "Let's go to that new restaurant. Want to take a drive this weekend? Let's plan that trip we talked about." When their feelings are changing, this proactive desire to create shared experiences often diminishes. The responsibility for planning, for initiating, for trying to keep the us alive falls increasingly on your shoulders. And when you do suggest something, their response might be lukewarm, hesitant, or they might agree without any real spark, making the experience feel hollow, even if it does happen. This withdrawal isn't always about grand, planned activities. It can be as subtle as their presence in your shared physical space. Do they spend more time in separate rooms than they used to? Do they seem to retreat into their own world with headphones on, engrossed in their phone or computer, even when you are physically together? That sense of comfortable, easy companionship, where simply being in the same space felt connecting, can begin to erode. You might feel a palpable distance, an invisible barrier between you, even when you are just a few feet apart. They are physically present, but emotionally and mentally, they have checked out. Furthermore, consider their engagement with your shared future. When love is strong, couples naturally talk about the future, whether it's planning a vacation for next year, discussing long-term goals, or simply imagining growing old together. These conversations are expressions of commitment and shared destiny. When love is fading, there's often a reluctance to engage in future-oriented talk, especially if it involves significant commitment or long-term plans. They might become vague, change the subject, or offer non-committal responses if you try to discuss the future. It's as if they are subconsciously or consciously avoiding weaving a future that they are no longer sure they want to be a part of. The horizon of us begins to shrink. This disengagement can also manifest in a decreased interest in your individual life beyond the communicative aspect we already discussed. Do they still celebrate your small victories with enthusiasm? Do they offer support during your challenges? Or does it feel like your personal world, your successes and struggles are becoming increasingly peripheral to their concerns? A partner whose love is steadfast remains invested in your well-being and your journey, even the parts that don't directly involve them. When that investment wanes, it's another sign that their emotional connection to you as a whole person is diminishing. This retreat from shared life is painful because it strikes at the sense of partnership, of being a team. You start to feel like you are moving through life on parallel tracks rather than as a cohesive unit. The we that was once a source of strength and joy begins to feel fragile, or like it's dissolving into you and me as separate entities. This isn't about healthy independence, which is vital in any relationship. It's about a pulling away from the intermingling of lives that characterizes a loving bond. They are, in essence, beginning to reclaim their time, their energy, and their emotional space as solely their own, creating more room between their life and yours. This process of disengagement is often slow and insidious. Each individual instance of withdrawal might seem explainable or minor on its own. But when you step back and look at the overall pattern, a clearer picture emerges, a consistent movement away from shared experiences, shared time, and shared future planning. It's as if they are subtly preparing for a life that no longer centrally includes you, practicing a form of emotional and logistical separation before any formal announcement is made. This quiet retreat from the shared fabric of your lives is the second powerful indicator that their love may be fading, leaving you with a growing sense of aloneness within the relationship itself. Now that we've explored these two primary indicators, the shift in communication and the withdrawal from shared life, you might be wondering why these specific changes often manifest so early, even before the person themselves might be ready to articulate their fading feelings. The answer lies in a fundamental aspect of how humans process emotional change and prepare for difficult transitions. Understanding this deeper layer will not only help confirm your observations, but can also offer a measure of clarity and perhaps guide your own responses with more wisdom. And that crucial insight, leading to the most important perspective to hold on to during such a difficult time, is what we will turn to next. This is where the true understanding lies. The underlying reason these two behaviors, the erosion of intimate dialogue and the retreat from shared space and time, often surface first when someone is falling out of love, is rooted in the human need to create emotional and psychological distance before a more definitive separation can occur. It is, in many ways, a subconscious or semi-conscious preparation for departure, a gradual untangling of the intertwined lives that once defined the relationship. When love is present and thriving, there's a natural drive towards closeness, intimacy, and enmeshment in a healthy sense. We invest our emotional energy, our time, and our vulnerability into the shared entity of us. Our lives become interwoven. To undo this, to prepare for a state where us no longer exists, requires a reversal of that process. It requires a pulling back of that invested energy, a reassertion of individual boundaries, and the creation of space, both emotional and practical. The change in communication is often the first step in creating this emotional distance. Intimate dialogue is a bridge between two inner worlds. By making that bridge less accessible, by offering shorter responses, avoiding deep topics, and withholding emotional engagement, the person unconsciously begins to separate their inner world from yours. They are no longer feeding the emotional connection in the same way. This reduction in emotional investment makes the eventual, more complete separation less jarring for them. It's like slowly turning down the volume on a relationship's emotional soundtrack rather than abruptly cutting it off. They are lessening their own dependence on the emotional nourishment they once received from and provided within the connection. This also serves to reduce their feelings of guilt or obligation, as the connection already feels weakened from their perspective. Similarly, the withdrawal from shared time and activities serves to create practical and psychological distance. Shared experiences, rituals, and future plans are the scaffolding that supports a life built together. By dismantling this scaffolding piece by piece, by opting out of date nights, avoiding discussions about the future, spending more time alone or with others, the person is, in effect, practicing a life separate from you. They are reacclimating themselves to an existence where their time, energy, and focus are primarily their own. This gradual disengagement makes the prospect of a full separation less daunting, as they have already begun to function more independently within the relationship. It's a way of testing the waters of autonomy, of seeing what life feels like with less we and more me. This process is not always a cold, calculated strategy. Often it's driven by an internal discomfort they may not fully understand or be ready to confront. The love has faded or is fading, and the intimacy and shared life that once felt natural and joyous now feel forced, burdensome, or even false. Continuing to engage at the previous level of intensity would require an emotional effort they are no longer willing or able to make. It might feel inauthentic to them. So they pull back, not necessarily with the intent to cause pain, though pain is an inevitable byproduct, but as a way of managing their own internal dissonance and preparing for what they sense is an impending shift. It's also a way for them to protect themselves. If they are contemplating or moving towards ending the relationship, deepening the connection or creating more shared memories can feel counterproductive and even more painful for them in the long run. So they instinctively start to create that buffer. They are, in a sense, already beginning their grieving process for the relationship, and part of that process involves detaching. Understanding this why does not make the experience any less painful for the person on the receiving end. It does not excuse hurtful behavior or a lack of honest communication. However, it can offer a framework for comprehending what might otherwise feel like a baffling and personal rejection. It shifts the focus slightly from "what did I do wrong?" to what is happening within them that is causing them to pull away in these specific ways. The most crucial piece of wisdom to hold on to, the insight that can save you immense suffering, is this: these early signals, this erosion of communication and shared life, are often more about the other person's internal state and their incapacity or unwillingness to continue investing in the relationship as it was than they are a direct reflection of your worth or lovability. While relationships are a two-way street and self-reflection is always valuable, when these specific patterns of withdrawal emerge consistently, they frequently signal a fundamental shift within the other person that you likely cannot control or fix, no matter how hard you try. Recognizing this allows you to begin protecting your own emotional well-being. Instead of pouring more and more energy into a connection that is clearly being starved by the other side, you can start to acknowledge the reality of the situation, however painful. It allows you to see that their withdrawal is not necessarily a puzzle for you to solve or a test for you to pass, but rather an indication of their own journey away from the relationship. This understanding empowers you to make choices that honor your own dignity. It allows you to stop chasing, to stop overfunctioning, to stop trying to force a connection that is no longer being reciprocated with the same energy and intent. It gives you permission to observe, to gather information, and to prepare yourself for the possibility that the relationship in its current form may be coming to an end. It helps you to shift from a state of confused anxiety to one of clearer, albeit sadder, perception. The fading of love is a profound sorrow. There is no easy way through it. But seeing these early signs, the withering of intimate talk and the retreat from shared life, and understanding the underlying dynamic of detachment can prevent you from losing yourself in the process. It can help you navigate this difficult passage with a little more clarity and self-possession. Ultimately, when someone's love for you is truly fading, their actions or inactions in these two crucial areas will speak louder than any words they might or might not say. Their communication will become a shallow stream where once a river flowed. Their presence in your shared life will become a shadow where once a vibrant partner stood. These are not your failings, they are the signs of their departure. And your most loving act in the face of such a truth is often to begin the difficult work of loving yourself enough to acknowledge it, to grieve it, and eventually to move towards a future where the love you give is fully and joyfully reciprocated. Your peace of mind, your dignity, and your future happiness depend on seeing clearly, even when the view is heartbreaking. You deserve a love that actively chooses to communicate, to share, and to build, not one that quietly dismantles the foundations of what you once held dear. Remember your worth, always.